مساء الخير عليكم واهلا وسهلا بيكم في حلقه جديده من حلقات باختصار. ازيكم يا جماعه؟ عاملين ايه؟ اتمنى كلكم تكونوا بخير. انا بس بضحك عشان طلعت النهارده فيديو الصبح واتكلمت على رايي في الاسهم اللي هتعمل ايرنينج كول النهارده، وكان منهم ابل وامازون وكوين ودرافت كينج. طيب خلينا نتكلم على ابل. هو ايه اللي حصل في ابل؟ ده موضوع كبير قوي. تعال نبص على السهم مع بعض. انا خلي بالكم انا قدامي 9 دقايق وان شاء الله المفروض هيبتدي السيمينار اللي انا كنت حطيته امبارح للناس، علشان اللي حابب يحضر معايا السيمينار هتلاقي اللينك بتاعه موجود في الصفحة. ده سيمينار للكتاب بتاع ريتش داد بور داد بتاعت روبرت كيوساكي، وكمان في 3 أو 4 معاه فاينانشال ادفايزرز، ناس من الناس الانتربرنور، الناس اللي عندها مشاريع كبيرة. فاللي حابب يحضر معايا يعني انا حطيت لكم اللينك عشان تخشوا. المفروض قدامنا 9 دقايق او 8 دقايق دلوقتي ويخشوا يعني. فخلينا نبص مع بعض على سهم ابل ونشوف الحركة بتاعته عملت ايه. تعال نبص مع بعض. ايوه، اوكي، تعال نبص مع بعض على ابل. تريدينج، ونبص مع بعض على السهم. سهم ابل زي ما انتم شايفين يا جماعه، شايفين الخازوق الكبير اللي نازل ده؟ طيب تعال نبص نشوف ايه اللي حصل. طيب سيبكم من ده مايكروسوفت، مش عايزين نعمل معاه حاجه دلوقتي، بس عايزين نركز على ابل. تعال نفتح ابل مع بعض. تيكر سيمبل AAPL. تعال نبص عليه. زي ما انتم شايفين اهو يا جماعه، ابل شغال. طبعا احنا لسه شغالين، الماركت لسه شغال، بس احنا دلوقتي في الافتر ماركت. فطبعا زي ما انتم شايفين التيك باي تيك شغال والناس لسه بتشتري. ده واحد اشترى 40 سهم، ده اتنين، واحد باع 40، واحد باع 50 سهم، واحد باع 15 سهم. زي ما انتم شايفين هنا زي ما حصل، ابتدى يطلع ابل. طلع ابل تقريبا ل 196 دولار، وبعد كده ابتدى ينزل نزول قوي جدا جدا لغاية ما وصل ل 185 دولار و4 سنت. فالنزول ده سببه ايه؟ طبعا النزول ده مش سببه الاي بي اس، يعني الايرنينج بير شير. ابل محقق الايرنينج بير شير. اعتقد الموضوع ليه علاقه بالريفينيو، بالايرادات بتاعته. الموضوع ليه علاقه بالتكنولوجيا اللي لسه ما وريناش اي حاجه ليها علاقه بالاي اي، الارتفيشال انتليجنس، اللي تقريبا مارفل ونيفيديا وكوالكوم واسهم كتيره جدا واي ام دي دخلوا اتكلموا على الاي اي الارتفيشال انتليجنس، بس للاسف ابل ما حققش الموضوع ده. فخلي بالكم، لان سهم ابل مش سهم ضعيف، سهم ابل سهم قوي. مش معنى ان هو نزل معناه ان هو هيفضل نازل، لا طبعا. السهم ده لما يرجع هيرجع اقوى من الاول، يعني هيوصل 200 210 بسهوله. بسهوله هيوصل 200 210. زي ما انا اتكلمت وقلت لكم ان امازون هيوصل ل 150، قربنا قوي على 150، باقي تقريبا 7 دولار ونص وامازون يوصل ل 150. على الرغم ان انا قلت لك امازون هيوصل ل 150 يعني لحد اخر السنه. فكويس قوي ان هو في الايرنينج كول بتاع امازون دلوقتي وصل تقريبا. خلينا نبص مع بعض. امازون طبعا احنا في ناس، يعني الناس اللي معايا في الجروب، لما امازون وصلت 138 نبيع. لا انا شايف ان ده ما كانش سعر بيع. سعر البيع انا كاتب لهم، يعني تعالوا نبص على الجروب هنا. افتح لكم الجروب علشان الناس برضو تبقى شايفة انا بتكلم وبقول ايه في الجروب بتاع باختصار. خش يا عم، خش يا عم والنبي. بقى عرفت يطلب باسورد وحاجات غريبة كده. طيب تعالوا نبص مع بعض كده انا كتبت للناس ايه. اهي، بص. الساعة 5:57 أنا كاتب رامي حنا أهو 140 بقى يا أمازون، كمان دولارين بقى خليك جدع. ماشي، يعني ده كان 138. تعالى نطلع. ناس هنا بتقول لي إيه اللي هيحصل؟ طول ما أبل بينزل، قلت لهم سباي هينزل. طول ما أبل بينزل سباي هينزل. طب ليه يا رامي طول ما أبل هينزل سباي هينزل؟ لأن أبل عبارة عن 30% من سباي. فأنا كتبت هنا إيه؟ تعال نتكلم على اطلع ايوه اهو الساعه 4:53 باعت للناس، قلت لهم كل اللي اشترى امازون لسه على الاقل 142 الا اذا بعته بربح مبروك طبعا. وزي ما طلعت في اللايف وقلت ابل مش مطمن لها، حصل زي ما حسيت، وكتبت لكم كذا مره. وكتبت هنا adding Amazon significant. لما امازون نزلت وصلت ل 128 و127 قلت لهم انا هضيف سهم امازون significant. طبعا ليه؟ لان انا عارف ان امازون هتطلع بسبب، على طول بسبب البرايم داي. البرايم داي يا جماعه هو سبب صعود ابل، صعود امازون، لان امازون مبيعاتها معظمها القويه الناس بتنتظر البرايم داي. فطالما الناس بتنتظر البرايم داي، والبرايم داي ده كان قبل الايرنينج كول، اعرف ان امازون على طول هيحقق. فدي كانت حاجه من الحاجات المهمه يعني. فخدوا بالكم من الحاجات دي، لان انا دايما بحاول ان انا يعني افوق الناس. خلي بالكم يا جماعه، سهم امازون وده مش معناه ان ابل هينزل ويفضل مكمل نزول، لا هيرجع ويطلع تاني. طيب قبل ما اقفل الحلقه، طبعا زي ما انتم شايفين اهو، انا منتظر اهو your rich dad event is coming soon. ودي الناس اللي انا مستنيها، المفروض هتطلع سيمينار. اللي عايز يخش معانا انا حاطط اللينك. انا قلت لكم كذا مره يا جماعه، اللي حابب يخش معايا ده السيمينار اهو خلاص هيبتدي كمان تقريبا دقيقتين. وده الشخص اللي انا متابعه اسمه روبرت كيوساكي. روبرت كيوساكي هو انفستور واديوكيتور وبيست سيلر اوثر. بيست سيلر اوثر في ريتش داد بور داد. ريتش داد بور داد. فده واحد من الناس المهمه جدا جدا جدا. فخدوا بالكم، لان يعني انا شايف ان دي من السيمينارز المهمه اللي ممكن توصلك فاينانشالي احسن، لحاجه احسن. فخلي بالكم يا جماعه، الموضوع ده مهم جدا جدا. انا مش بقول لكم على حاجه انا ما جربتهاش قبل كده، انا جربتها قبل كده، والراجل ده انا بسمع له تقريبا ما فيش اي حاجه انا عملتها من الحاجات اللي قال عليها وما حصلتش او ما اشتغلتش صح. عبد الرحمن سعد بيقول لي المبلغ كام من فضلك؟ مبلغ ايه بالظبط؟ عشان انا مش عارف. السيمينار اللي موجود ده ببلاش، ده سعره $200 عاملينه ببلاش. خلي بالكم الناس عشان تعرف، السيمينار ده ببلاش، يعني انا داخله ببلاش مش بفلوس. لو انت بتسأل على السيمينار يعني اعتقد يعني. احلى تحيه واحلى. منى بتقول I don't think they include prime day sales in their earning. يمكن يعني انا ممكن يكون كلامك صح، ممكن يكون ما حطوش الايرنينج البرايم داي في الايرنينج، بس ده معناها لو ما حطوش البرايم داي في الايرنينج بتاع الربع سنوي ده، معناه ان الربع سنوي اللي جاي امازون ممكن تكسر $180 بسهوله. فبالعكس يعني انا شايف ان انت الخبر اللي انت بتقولوا لي ده خبر احسن، ان انا فعلا اكمل واستنى لغايه ما نوصل ل $180. طيب اهو بصوا يا جماعه، السيمينار هيبتدي دلوقتي اهو. عبد الرحمن تخش معايا فين؟ انا مش عارف. لو في الجروب موجود على هحط لك اللينك بتاعه، يعني هو على الويب سايت ده. انا بكتبه اهو عشان الناس كلها تعرفه، www.4shortcut.com، وجوين الجروب معانا. الناس اللي عايزه تجوين معانا الجروب بتاع التداول على www.4shortcut.com.
I'm Chris Steele, and on behalf of Robert and Kim Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Company, I want to welcome everyone to our Rich Dad World live stream event. Robert and Kim have been providing Rich Dad live stream events for over a decade.
انا هسيبه مفتوح لو الناس حابه انها تتفرج معايا يعني.
Countries around the world. It's been incredible. We continue to hold these events to help fulfill Robert's mission of elevating the financial well-being of humanity. On that note, today we have a powerful event that we hope is both motivating and helpful as you continue to improve your financial education and take control over your financial future. Now, what I'm about to tell you is really important. When today's powerful event is over, Robert is going to join me for a question and answer session. So get your questions ready. And as an added bonus, if you stay with us till the end, you'll be provided with some proven resources to help you immediately start improving your financial future. So make sure you stay until
الناس اللي متابعه معايا والناس اللي موجوده عندي في الصفحه خشوا. انا مش عارف ابعت لكم اللينك ازاي، عايز ابعت لكم اللينك، خليني اشوف اقدر ابعته ازاي.
Now I encourage you to shut your door, tell everybody you're busy. I also suggest that you grab a notepad to take notes. Be sure to write down all action items that apply to your personal plan
احطه دلوقتي في اللايف.
financial freedom. Or any questions that you might have for Robert to help you escape the rat race once and for all. All right, without any further delay, let's get to the reason why you're here and jump right in.
انا حطيته في اللايف اهو يا جماعه للي عايز يخش معايا.
All right, I want to welcome everybody. I'm Chris Steele. Thank you for joining us for this month's Rich Dad World live stream. Today's event is going to be focused on current global economic environment and what you can do about it, including how to protect your existing assets and how to leverage opportunities to build your personal wealth. And I got to tell you, make sure that you have your pen and paper ready to take some notes because we have a phenomenal panel here. Of course, we're always happy to have the founders of the Rich Dad Company, Robert and Kim Kiyosaki. Today, we also have two very knowledgeable experts guests, Raul Powell.
مفيش مشكلة عبد الرحمن، تواصل معايا على في الرسائل. لو انت عندك رسائل ابعت لي رسائل.
And Raul, I'm going to have you go ahead and start. If you would tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've 30 odd years in financial markets. I was at Goldman Sachs. I then ran a large hedge fund doing global macro, which is investing in all asset classes around the world. In that whole journey, I then moved to Spain back in 2005, where I started writing macroeconomic research and investment strategy for the world's biggest hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, family offices, that kind of thing, called the Global Macro Investor, which I still do today. In addition, I started Real Vision, which is the financial media company that I think many people that know about, where we've been helping educate people in what's really going on by interviewing the world's most famous and thoughtful people. I also have a number of other businesses around the crypto space as well.
الراجل ده عنده بيزنس بتاع كريبتو سبيسز.
Robert Helms, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, hey everybody. Most people probably know me as the host of the Real Estate Guys radio program. During our 28-year broadcast, still on radio as well as our podcast, which is heard in nearly 200 countries. I started investing in real estate almost 40 years ago, and I'm a collector of property. My number one rule in my personal investment philosophy is never sell, only buy. But it's times like this when we're excited to make different moves and start thinking ahead. So really happy to be back with you.
I know we're going to be talking about a lot of different subjects, real estate, the dollar, AI. But Robert Kiyosaki, if I could start with you, both you and Kim, when you started the Rich Dad Company, your goal was to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. Tell us a little bit about, tell our viewers why you think that right now is such a critical time for people to get educated and be in a position to think for themselves.
Well, first of all, I'd like to give a shout out for Robert Helms because I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the book had to be self-published. This is, 1997. It had to be self-published because every New York publisher turned it down saying, you don't know what you're talking about. So we had to self-publish it. And then, and today it's still #1 in the world, throughout the world. But the New York publishers, as you know, don't know what they're talking about. But the good news is I got this phone call from the real estate guys, and the real estate guys were the first guys that ever did a promo about Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
To this day, Robert, you've been the guest we've had the most on our show.
Well, thank you. And then these guys have a real estate guys cruise, I could plug that one. It is really intense, well worth it, fun. And it's fun learning, great people, and you get to know some really great people from all over the world on a cruise. So anyway, it's been a long history. And Mr. Raoul Pal has been I respect him when Raoul speaks. I listen. I bought Bitcoin because of him and all this, and have done very well. So it's all home week for me. With that, Kim.
Well, I would just add, a lot of people don't realize that the first product we came out with at Rich Dad was the cash flow board game. And Robert and I were sitting around a coffee shop by the NBC studios in New York going, well, what are we going to do now? What's our next venture? And we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we could create a game that was fun and educational, but actually taught people something? And so we created the game, and that's where the mission statement came from, to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. And then Robert started working on a brochure to promote the game, and the brochure kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and next thing you know, you had Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So it's always been our mission from day one. It stays our mission today. And to your point, Chris, I think financial education is more important today than ever before, because there's so much change happening in the world that just to keep up with the change is a full-time job. So we are lifelong learners, and I trust those watching are as well.
If I could add, I wrote a book called Rich Dad's Prophecy, because this came out after 2008. And I said the biggest crash in history was still coming after 2008. And then, as we know, we've had 3 simultaneous crashes. Deutsche Bank's in trouble, Bank of Japan's in trouble, Swiss is in trouble. That's why Raoul Pal's here, is because that's his world, is the macro of what's going on in the world, and we're in serious trouble. I mean, that's I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think happy days are here again. I think we're going to slide fast, and that's my opinion.
And Robert, I was just talking about your book, Why We Want You to Be Rich. Also, I was talking about several things that you pointed out in that book that we're now seeing as well. So many things going on in the world right now. Raoul Pal, I wanted to ask you if you could just kind of give us a macro view of what's happening with the global economy right now.
Yes, so the inflation that came last year was really a function of 2 things. One was the reopening of the economy, pent-up demand, no supply. Nobody could get anything, as you know. You try to buy anything for your house, it was impossible to get. Prices rose dramatically. The central bank then raised rates at the fastest pace in history, and that happened pretty much everywhere. The backside of that is always, in every case, a recession. So we're now in that phase now. I think we're in a recession already. Don't forget, last year, many of the financial markets discounted, some of them had some really big falls. Technology stocks, the growth end of technology was down 75%. And we saw a lot of big corrections in markets.
خدوا بالكم ان هو بيقول ان احنا في ريسيشن اوريدي. الكلام ده بتشبعوا عليه؟ يلا خلينا نبص.
So inflation lags, so it takes time for inflation to come down. Inflation, I think, keeps falling for the next 18 months. I think we actually end up with negative inflation, deflation at headline level. I think, rent inflation is coming low. You're seeing it all across the property industry. You're seeing unemployment starting to rise, and I think wages will slow down as well. So we've got that side. And that means, now this is where my view is slightly different, probably than Robert's or most other people. Everybody saying, my God, Raoul, you're talking about recession, this is disaster, real estate's going to be a disaster, commercial real estate's a problem, the banks are a problem. Yes, all of those things, yes. And the answer will be more monetary printing. And when you do that, you're debasing the currency. It's a kind of insidious way that they deal with it, is you debase the currency that optically makes assets look like they're rising. But really what you're doing is lowering the purchasing power of the US dollar. And that happens at a global level. The big G5 central banks, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Europeans, the UK, the US, and you could probably add in Canada as well. So those are what drive this. And what I think the outcome is the opposite of a crash. It's actually the markets go to hyperspace, meaning we see a huge rise because of debasement and because we discounted a lot last year. But bad side of this equation, this is not all roses. The bad side of this equation is people's incomes don't go up a lot. and they have not gone up in real terms since 1972. So what you're actually getting is if you don't own assets, you're getting poorer, because assets really are future consumption. That's what you save, so you've got money later, and you put it into something that hopefully goes up to maintain its purchasing power. But if you can't
هنا
afford those
بيتكلم عن
assets,
الاسيتس، هنا بيتكلم عن الاصول.
because they're so
يفضل
expensive.
ان انت يكون عندك اصول اكتر. الاصول كل ما بتزيد، الاسيتس كل ما تزيد عندك وتديك باسيف انكم، طول ما تحميك من اي مشكله ممكن تقابلك قدام. زي ما روبرت كيوساكي قال ان هو مش مطمن للفيوتشر اللي هيحصل، يعني مش مطمن من ممكن يحصل مشاكل ومصايب قدام، ولكن لو انت متوقع ان يحصل مصايب ومشاكل قدام لازم تزود الاصول بتاعتك.
Flow to money market funds, because the rate that they offer for interest is much lower than the money market funds, which are offering 5%. So they've got a broken business model. The Fed need to cut 300 basis points or more to get that kind of settled down, but we've still got the overhang of commercial real estate. The reality is COVID changed the working policies of almost everybody. And even though now many real estate surveys suggest that in major cities, 50% of real estate, commercial real estate office space is empty, that doesn't take into account the people who are still in leases. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see a big problem there. That is also going to end up on the central bank balance sheet. So we've got money printing to come, we've got liquidity to come into the market, and interest rates to fall. It will feel terrible because we're in a recession, and everybody will be looking in surprise when a lot of these assets go up in price.
So we have several issues. We've got the dollar, the devaluation of the dollar, the question of whether or not you want money in the banks. So obviously, Robert Kiyosaki, we go back to what you talk about, you and Kim talk about so much of that is tangible assets. With the real estate market being what it is, I'm in a market in North Carolina, Highlands, Cashers area. We had, 2 years ago, we had 300 homes in the rental pool. We now have 1,100 homes in the rental pool. We hear about this across the country. What do we expect to happen, at least coming from the real estate market, where there may be some opportunities for our viewers?
So, you just have to think about what is your hedge against what is coming. And as I said, I don't fear the falling prices. In some areas, yes. But I don't fear the falling prices. I feel the loss of purchasing power and us being poorer in the future, which I think is a huge problem for a lot of people.
So Raul, I just have a question, because you said, if you have assets, with all that's coming on, if you have assets, you're gonna be in much better shape. So when you're talking about assets, are you talking real estate, gold, silver, crypto? Are there other assets that are valuable?
So I've done the work on all of this and compared them all to the growth of the Fed balance sheet. And what I found was gold, as expected, is in line. So it protects you. Real estate, pretty much the same too. Now, that excludes leverage.
Gold,
if you include the leverage in real estate, you can actually do a bit better. Yeah. The S&P 500,
S&P 500,
actually technology stocks and crypto
that
do significantly better. So if we look at the period when the Fed stopped raising rates in 2018,
دي الاصول اللي بيتكلم ان احنا يفضل ان احنا نزودها عشان لو حصل اي حاجه في الفيوتشر
more growth in technology was up like 35%, and Bitcoin at one point was up 300%, and it corrected somewhat, but it finished the year up 100%. And you tend to see that consistency in performance. Now, they're riskier. So for some people, I don't mind the risk. I have an income, I don't have any debt, I can take risk. Other people shouldn't be taking that risk. So you just look, what is the right risk for you? Now, real estate is not necessarily a risk.
هنا بيتكلم على حاجه مهمه قوي، ودي حاجه الناس لازم تاخد بالها منها. انت بتفكر دلوقتي ان انت تجيب اسيتس، كل ما الاسيتس بيزيد الريسك بتاعها كل ما يفضل ان الشخص اللي هيشتري الاسيتس اللي عليها ريسك ده يكون معلوش ديت، ما يكونش عليه ديون. كل ما تقل الديون بتاعتك كل ما يبقى عندك امكانيه انك تجيب اسيتس اصول اكتر بريسك اعلى. لكن لو انت عندك ديت كتير يبقى يفضل دايما تاخد السيف سايد، تاخد الحاجات اللي فيها ريسك اقل. واعلى ريسك فيهم هو بيقول اعلى ريسك فيهم هو الكريبتو.
When the rates double, and that's what's happened. But it's interesting. I spent the last couple of weeks with Kenny McElroy, and Ken and I were musing about the fact that during the time we've been in real estate, about the same number of years, The average interest rate that we've had to deal with for all those years is higher than today's interest rate. So anyone investing in the last, few years is used to the 2, 3, 4% rates. But if you look back, that's not really the average, and there's a lot of reasons it's been kept down. But to speak to commercial real estate especially, here's the problem. The pandemic did change everything. We have uses of real estate that are different. It's hard to repurpose an office building. A few people are doing it successfully, but many are not. And the big challenge is this. Financing for commercial property isn't like residential property. My house I can refinance, after a year if the rates go down, and maybe I want to do that, maybe I don't. But commercial loans aren't like that. Commercial loans are for a set period of time for the most part, 5 years, 10 years. So imagine right now we have all this office space. It's not fully utilized. Some of it's completely empty, but these companies are still making their lease payments. Because they're still making their lease payments, the mortgage is getting paid. So it doesn't show any distress right now. But when those loans come due later this year, next year, the year after that, there's not going to be the leases in place. If I had a bunch of, office space today, and now I only need half of it, say, well, first is I'm going to renegotiate my lease to only take half. But the other thing I'm going to do is look around at the market and say, rates are really down because there's all this empty office space. So I'd like a lower rate as well. Meantime, the owner of the property is likely having to refinance at a higher rate than they were able to get last year or the year before. So that's the big quandary in commercial. And I think there will be distress around that. And I think there will be opportunity.
If I could add, the elephant in the room is technology. And the reason is, I live in Phoenix, and I drive to, I think, Mesa, Arizona. And there are these huge shopping centers that are empty. And that's REIT money and all this stuff, they're empty. But that was often caused by a thing called Amazon or technology. And so I think the elephant in the room is what's going to happen when AI kicks in. And I'm not a technocrat, but I think I was at a conference in Nashville on I call AI, artificial intelligence. I said, well, isn't artificial intelligence a college degree? Because you don't learn anything about money. And I was speaking to this young woman at the conference. I interviewed her on Rich Dad Radio, and I know nothing. I barely use a cell phone. But she says, I'm terrified. And I went, she's like 25 years old. And I said, what are you terrified of? She says, we haven't seen the dark side of AI yet. So I'm going, wow. So it's not a time to be complacent, or I say to people, don't think tomorrow's going to be like yesterday. And another bit of advice is there's something good about being an old guy, because an old guy's seen at least some of the ups and downs. Whereas some of these new financial planners, all they've known is the economy where interest rates kept coming down and asset prices kept going up. So I think it's important for people listening to this podcast to know there's some value to age, because we've seen it. When Kim started investing in real estate, I think it was 12% was the interest rate, right, Kim?
11 or 12% interest, and we still got cash flow. Yeah. And we had friends on this recently.
طيب تعالى اشرح لكم الحته دي. الراجل اللي هو بتاع الريل استيت قال حاجه حلوه جدا. دلوقتي هو قال ان الريل استيت من ناحيه الكوميرشال، اولا قال من ناحيه الريزيدنشال ان الريل استيت ابتدى الايجارات تبقى عاليه جدا. وقال ان الانترست ريت في الفتره اللي فاتت كانت قليله، صح، ولكن لو انت شفت مثلا من 10 سنين فاتوا او اكتر وجيت اخدت المتوسط، هتلاقي ان الانترست ريت دلوقتي اقل من المتوسط. فده معناه ان يفضل دايما ان انت تستثمر في الريل استيت طالما في عندك امكانيه ان انت تاخد بنفس الانترست ريت اللي موجوده دلوقتي. طيب ايه اللي تاني قاله؟ قال ان الريل استيت من ناحيه الكوميرشال ابتدى يزيد الفايده عليه، بلس ان ذا اذر سايد في الناحيه الثانيه الكوميرشال مش عليه شغل كتير، الناس ابتدت تو ورك فروم هوم. فدلوقتي اللي بياخد رينتال من على الريل استيت الكوميرشال او بياخد اوفيسز او حاجات زي كده، بالتالي بيعمل بيعمل نيجوشيشن، بيحاول يتفاوض في اسعار الرنت او الايجارات للكوميرشال بيزس. ليه؟ لان الكوميرشال بيزس الراجل اللي شاري كوميرشال بيز بيدفع انترست ريت عاليه، وفي نفس الوقت الناس اللي بياخدوا منه او التننتس اللي مؤجرين منه بيعملوا ايه؟ بيعملوا نيجوشيشن ان هم يدفعوا اقل. فبالتالي هنا في دروب جامد ممكن يحصل في حته الريل استيت من ناحيه الكوميرشال سايد. طبعا روبرت كيوساكي ابتدى يتكلم على الاي اي الارتفيشال انتليجنس، وابتدى يتكلم عن انه كان في كذا مول او كان في مول، وبص على المول لقى المول فاضي ما بقاش فيه محلات، وده بسبب وجود امازون، ان اي حد دلوقتي يقدر يتبضع يشتري الحاجات من امازون. طب الاي اي واخدنا فين؟ ففي الحته دي بيقول ان هو كان في كونفرنس فقابل واحده عندها 25 سنه، فبيقول لها بيتكلموا عن الاي اي، فبتقول له خلي بالك انت لسه ما شفتش الدارك سايد من الاي اي من الارتفيشال انتليجنس.
Viewers need to really key into, and that is don't expect tomorrow to look like yesterday. With so many things on the brink, I heard somebody say recently, when things are exponential, it seems always too early to act. But the reality is we have to be prepared for quick change. To your point, Raul, you shared a tweet not long ago about AI and how it can impact or will impact jobs. Talk a little bit about that and how it's going to affect our viewers.
So AI is very different to most of the other technologies. All the other technologies were kind of tools-based technologies. So we're scaling humans' abilities to do certain things. What AI is infinitely scalable intelligence. Right? What are humans? Why do we sit at the top of the food tree? Food tree? There's such a thing. The food chain is because we are the intelligence. And there's 8.5 billion of us, and that's what creates the economic society we live in. When you're creating fully scalable intelligence, now it's not yet what's known as generalized AI. It's not smarter than any human that's ever existed, etc., including specialists, but it's better than I am, and it's better than most of us are at most things. So now you have infinite knowledge and intelligence. And that means that we're going to see a lack of a need for humans in many of the jobs that are done. Whether you're editing videos, writing copy, whether you're programming developers, and they're showing 8x in productivity just from using AI to write the code. So it's disrupted lawyers. Even our lawyer at Real Vision, who's next Disney lawyer, he uses ChatGPT 4 to quickly draft contracts, NDAs, everything else, and check legal points. Accounting firms, everybody. So it's coming also for the creatives, the artists, the music people. So it's coming for all the jobs we thought would never get disrupted, because we disrupted physical power by factories. First it was the plow, and then it was the factory, and then it was, various elements of what we do today. But now we're changing the knowledge base. So I think we are going to lose a lot of jobs because AI is cheaper, better, easier.
I kind of back up what Raul said earlier. Okay. I remember when Amazon came around 2000, if I remember correctly, it hit hard.
طبعا هنا بيتكلم عن الارتفيشال انتليجنس والخطوره بتاعته، ان اولا السهوله بتاعته، هو اتكلم عن السهوله بتاعته في انه بيسهل لك حاجات كتيره جدا في الشغل. بيسهل للناس الموسيقيين، بيسهل للناس اللي بتكتب برامج، الناس اللي بتكتب كتب، الناس، وانتوا اكيد شفتوا الحاجات دي على التيك توك وعلى انستجرام وعلى الفيسبوك، قد ايه الناس بتستخدم الاي اي الارتفيشال انتليجنس على انهم يسهل لهم الشغل بتاعهم. ولكن في الناحيه الثانيه طريقه التسهيل دي بتضيع فرص عمل كتير جدا على ناس لسه معتمده على الاساليب القديمه. فبالتالي لازم تركز في حته انك تزود القدرات بتاعتك في انك تطور من نفسك، بان ما يقدروش يعملوا لك ريبليس او يبدلوك بالاي اي بالارتفيشال انتليجنس.
AI version of myself. There's enough internet content from me to create one. So I could be out of a job, theoretically. And I write economic research. Well, that's going to replace me too. So how do I deal with that, this uncertainty? For me, it's pretty simple. Invest in your own demise. That's why I bought technology stocks. That's why I own crypto, is I'm investing. If they are more successful than me, I will make more money from the rise of the robots. So I'm going to give the robots my money, and that's my hedge. Honestly, it's a hedge, and I think everybody should think about that. that your hedge to your future is how you invest now. Invest in your own demise, at least make some money out of it. It could protect you when you need it the most.
You know, all of this to me reminds me why our viewers, it's so important that they gain the knowledge and put themselves in a position to think for themselves, being an entrepreneur, being an investor, and surrounding themselves with the right people. Robert Helms, we're talking about AI. Are there opportunities possibly in the real estate world that you see coming from AI?
Oh, certainly. And I think there's both a great opportunity and a little bit of the dark side. To the positive, so much of what we do in real estate, especially in the management, care, and those things, marketing real estate, are repeatable tasks. AI is wonderful for this. I have a friend who's got a big property management company, and for 2 years, they've used a virtual person to take most of their inquiries. So it's obvious when you look at her, she's not real. But it's amazing the questions that she can answer. 90% of the questions that an apartment office gets can be answered by this artificial person. And when she gets something that she can't answer, she easily escalates that to a real person. It's also the same for title and escrow and loan documents and the legal side. So I see there's a lot of upside there. One of the things about the technology associated with real estate is that when there is a change, there's a lot of great tools that make life easier. I'm here today at our resort in Belize, where people can check in without having to go to the front desk and use a digital key in their phone, and we have RFID locks that keep track of every single person that comes in every single room, and there's a lot of technology. Our internet is robust, but at the same time, I don't see a technology, and you can correct me if you think otherwise, but I don't see a technology coming down the road that's going to eliminate the need for human beings to sleep under a roof. So if you're in the apartment business or the home business or in the resort business, people want to come, they want to have a good time, they want to get out and eat, and certainly there's disruption in their income. But like my housekeepers here, we employ about 50 housekeepers. I don't see AI replacing them. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not sure how that would work.
Robert, that's a great point. I'm in the Cayman Islands, and we had the busiest tourist season ever. And which is weird because most businesses are down, money's tight. Why is that? It's because we all spend our lives now on Zoom and digitally. So what we will spend money on, even in a
طيب
recession.
اتمنى ان انتوا تكونوا متابعين. انا بعت لكم اللينك للناس اللي عايزه تخش وتكمل السيمينار اونلاين. اشوفكم الحلقه الجايه اللايف الجاي. مساءكم فل.
It's not going